to master having a great, and I said great, not good, but a great first impression as a woman in leadership. In this video, you will absolutely want to stay and watch it until the end. Why? Because I'm going to share with you first impressions as a woman leader, what you must know. I'm going to share with you over 20 years worth of expertise as a C-suite executive, a director and a manager, a public speaker and an executive coach to help you understand these conversations that are not often spoke about as it relates to how to make a very good first impression. Now, first impressions themselves are critically important in any leadership role that you have, but particularly as a woman, we want to make sure that you are not giving the good impression. That is for average leaders. And if you're watching this video or watching this live, I know you're not average. You're very much above average, which is why you're here on my channel. So we're going to work with you in terms of how to make a great first impression. Now, I want to preface this by saying that this is somewhat of a part two to a video I did earlier this morning live, and it is called First Impressions, or How to Master First Impressions, I believe is what I titled it as. So you may want to take a look at that in terms of more specific logistics, specific techniques that you want to do to have a great first impression. But in this video, I'm going to share with you what you must know, what you need to know that people don't talk about that much as it relates to mastering your first impression as a woman in leadership. If this sounds interesting to you, then this is a fantastic time for you to be able to subscribe to the channel. I talk specifically about how to help you as a woman in leadership be able to elevate how you communicate as a leader and stand out from everybody else. Now, my target audience in terms of who I work with specifically are women in leadership. So if you're a woman in leadership and you are at the point where you're ready to really make that big impact on the world, regardless of where you are in your leadership journey, then reach out to me for a strategy session in the description below. If you are a man in leadership, I appreciate you being here on my channel. My channel consists of women in leadership, which is my target audience, but I have a lot of men in leadership on my channel as well. So I appreciate everyone being here. The information I share with you, whether you're a woman or a man, truly transcends gender. And so I'm here to help you communicate at that higher level so that you are the person that stands out from everybody else as a leader. If you're watching this portion of the video, you are most likely watching the replay. So give me a few moments. Let me say hello to everyone who has joined today. And we'll go right into what you must know as it relates to mastering your first impressions as a woman leader. All right, so Michael Blucker, hello, welcome, welcome. Hope you're doing fantastically well today. We have Michael Blucker says, can you help me out? Michael, let me know how I can help you, friend. Sella Durai 347, hello, welcome, welcome. How you doing today? We have King B present. Hello, King B. And Enemy of Aquila, hello, my friend. Please, your phone number, give me today. Okay, so I don't quite understand what that means, but nonetheless, if you're trying to master your first impressions today, this is the place for you to be. I'm going to share with you what you must know as it relates to mastering first impressions as a woman leader. And keep in mind that specifically, this information I'm sharing with you is information that people don't talk about that much. So you definitely, absolutely want to make sure you stay until the end. I'm going to go into it in just a moment. But before I do that, let me know where you all are joining from in this big, beautiful world today. Let me know where you're joining from. And if you have ever found yourself struggling with making a very good or great first impression, let me know in the comments below. All right, and King B said, and sub. Yes, absolutely. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. King B, appreciate you. Let me know how you all are doing. Let me know what questions you have specifically as it relates to making a very, very great. I don't say good, because if I say good impression, that means you're average. If I say great, that's why you watch this channel, because you are going to become great. So we're working on great impressions. Some things for you to keep in mind. So Sella Durai, I hope I said it correctly, 347 says subbed. Okay, well, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate you, friend. King B says I like and sub. Well, King B, thank you. I appreciate you, friend. Let me know what questions y'all have about how do you make that great, that really great first impression. I'm going to give you some strategies and kind of keep you wondering how can you make this very great impression by sharing some things that you just have to know. You have to know these things, friends. You have to know them to make that great impression. So the first, I would say, insight that I want to share with you all today is that number one, your first impressions really matter. And thank you so much for the heart emojis. I appreciate them. King B says you're welcome. Appreciate that. Thank you, King B. I appreciate you. So your first impressions really do matter. They make a huge difference whether you are going into a business meeting, you're meeting with some stakeholders, board members, team members, your boss, etc. First impressions truly do matter. They matter significantly. Why is that? Now, before I go into why they matter, let me share with you a live video I did this morning. So if you want to get more of the specifics, the actual techniques to master your first impression, take a look at my live channels here on YouTube. I have a lot of lives that will help you go to that next level. But if you want to master it, the specific techniques, check out my live from this morning. It's called Master Your First Impression. It gives you some technical things. But today I'm going to share with you the topics that people don't really talk about, as it relates to your first impression. So if you like this information, subscribe to the channel. Join us. We talk about all types of leadership communication skills all day to help you stand out from everybody else. Before I go into what I was mentioning, Shishan Shando. If I said it incorrectly, friend, I'm sorry about that, but welcome. Glad you're here today. Let me know where y'all are joining from. I want to hear from you. And if you have questions about making that great, as I said, great, not good, great first impression, put them in the comments below. So as I mentioned, first impressions really make a huge difference, regardless of where you're going. If you are in a board meeting, business meeting, interview, salary negotiation, your first impressions truly matter. Why do they matter so much? What I've found as a leader, and I've been in the leadership world for over 20 years, is that often people will treat you the way that you present yourself in your first impression. Let me give you an example of this. I had an individual that I knew specifically, and she came to me wanting to get some help. She was really struggling with a bit of complicated dynamics that were happening with her at her job. What happened is that some of her team members that she was working with were being very lax with her. They were somewhat dismissive of some of the ideas that she had, and she felt like they were not respecting her the way that she wanted to be respected. So when I talked to her and I asked her, well, what do you think is going on? Why do you think there's this change suddenly? She mentioned that she herself has been in a process of trying to enhance her career. And as she was enhancing her career, she was adjusting the way that she was communicating with her team. And instead of being more lax in her communication, she was being more articulate. And her team didn't really receive that well. So when we dove into what was going on and really had a very deep conversation about it, what it came down to was her first impressions. When she started at this particular role, she was very lax in how she communicated. Her first impressions, she mentioned to me, when she spoke with her team, they discussed topics that were outside of work, topics that were not necessarily appropriate to talk about in the workplace setting, that really are topics you probably shouldn't talk about. So she kept talking about those particular topics for a very long time, but then it came to a point, as many of the individuals that are either subscribed to my channel or follow my content, they know that they want to do more. They want to do more, they want to do better. And she's trying to elevate herself, but then she finds herself in almost like a tug of war. Her team is treating her the way they're used to treating her based on her first impression they had of her. But then she's trying to go to this next level and they don't understand. They're not quite sure what's going on. And what happened is that she had this challenge. So what did we do? I told her, when you make a first impression and it's not the first impression that you want people to have of you, you have to work very, very hard to regain and position yourself as a person that you want to be perceived as. So my question to you all that are watching this video right now is, as we're talking about first impressions and what you must know, I want to ask you, what or how do you want other people to perceive you as a leader, whether you are a woman in leadership or a man in leadership? How do you want people to perceive you as a leader? Let me know in the comments below. Now, specifically, as I mentioned in this video, I'm focusing in on women leaders. And one of the challenges that I see that happens oftentimes with women leaders is that there is a gap in terms of our leadership roles. And let me go into that a bit more. Specifically, what happens often as women leaders is that we are transitioning into roles that may not have been occupied by women in the past. They may be roles that have been predominantly occupied by men. And that's okay. We're making that transition. That's great. But how can this gap impact your first impression? Or what are some things that you must know as a woman leader about mastering your first impression, and what does it mean? So let me give you an example of this. And this is a personal example for me that I've experienced many, many times in my role previously as a dentist. I found that I interacted with a lot of different patients from different walks of life, different ages, and etc. And so what happened to me as a woman leader, and this is my perspective in terms of what happened to me, is that I would interact with people that would say to me, wow, you're the first woman dentist I've ever seen in my life. Or you're the first woman dentist that I've ever been treated by. And I want to mention to you all as women leaders that you may be in a situation where you are the first woman CEO, the first woman VP, the first woman senior VP, the first woman manager, the first woman director that an individual has seen in their entire life. So when you think about that first impression that you are trying to master, and you will master it by watching my channel and subscribing, of course. But when you think about that first impression as a woman leader, it is actually bigger than what you may think that it is. You are actually representing other women, and the first time someone has actually interacted with another woman as a leader, potentially in their lives. So not only do you want to have that very great, as I mentioned, not good. Good is average. Great is what I want you to become. And great is what you can do by subscribing to my channel, of course. But you want to make sure that this impression they have of you as a woman leader is a great first impression that just showcases how women are able to transition into some of these roles that are oftentimes heavily dominated by men. And as I mentioned, that's okay. It's just a matter of keeping in mind that you may be the first, just like I was the first of many of my patients, the first woman dentist they have ever worked with or they have ever seen. You want to make sure that you are not only reflecting a great first impression to other people, but you also want to reflect a great first impression to other women that may come behind you that are in those leadership type of roles. This happens often. So I want to know from you, have you ever had a first impression that went extremely well? Let me know in the comments below to share with the audience, what did you do specifically for this first impression to go very well? Let us know in the comments below. Or maybe you had a first impression that you found out, it didn't go as well as I'd like for it to. Then let us know that too, so that we can learn from each other and make sure that we are helping everyone grow. Whether you are a woman in leadership, whether you're a man in leadership that has happened to watch it, that just so happens to be watching my channel, you really want to be able to master your first impression. And I'm just sharing specifically for the women leaders some things, some strategies, some aspects that you really need to know. So I mentioned already, we talked about why first impressions matter. How people will treat you definitely has a relation to your first impression. So you want to make sure your first impression is a very excellent, great first impression that showcases your executive presence as a leader. And so people understand when they come and speak to you, there's a certain level of respect, a way that you are helping them to understand how to communicate with you. The second I mentioned specifically for women leaders is that there is a gap in terms of the number of women that are transitioning into some of the senior leadership roles, your CEOs, your senior VPs, and etc., where these roles have been predominantly occupied by men. This may be the first time this person actually has seen a woman leader in a role. So you want to make that great first impression, not only for you personally, but you also want to make that great first impression for other women that are coming behind you as leaders. Now, finally, I want to mention something to you all. And as I mentioned, these are first impressions that you must know. You must know these insights. And I'm sharing with you over 20 years worth of expertise for myself. And I've seen how this happens, especially this last one. As I mentioned in the beginning, you wanted to watch this to the very end. And this one, this insight is something you definitely want to take note of, because people make this mistake all the time. And this is one of the aspects of mastering and making that first impression that truly is very, very important for you to be able to master. Now, before I go into this last insight that I want to share with you, I do want to acknowledge that we've had a lot of great interactions today on my channel. I appreciate King B and Sela Durai for being present, and Shishan Shando also for being present today. Just want to give everybody a shout out there and just let you all know I appreciate you. If there's any topics specifically as it relates to leadership, as it relates to communication, maybe you are struggling in your interviews, maybe you're struggling with your salary negotiations, maybe you're struggling with how to have those very hard conversations with your team, maybe you don't know how to manage your emotions under pressure, or perhaps you know you're trying to present yourself or elevate yourself as a woman in leadership, and you're trying to go to that next level, but you know there's something missing and you know you need some help getting there, then contact me. Feel free to take a look at the description below. There is a link to have a strategy session with myself. This is a complimentary call for us to have a very brief conversation about where you are, where you want to be, and coming up with a game plan for you to go to that next level in your career. Now, before I go into the final insight in terms of how you can make a great first impression as a woman leader, and just some of the aspects of making a first impression that you must know, I saw something pop up in the chat, so let me take a look and see what's going on. Rumi, hello Rumi, welcome back, friend. How are you doing today? Rumi says, hi, do you remember me? Yes, Rumi, I remember you. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate you coming back. And if you have any questions as it relates to being able to really master your first impression, then let me know in the comments below. But welcome back, friend. Glad you're here. The final insight. This is important. Now, this is very, very important. People make this mistake all the time. Did I say all the time? All of the time. And I don't want you to do it, because this is how your first impression can negatively impact you as a leader. What happens often when we are communicating with other leaders, or we are communicating with our peers and etc., is that there comes a point in time in the conversation where something happens, right? And if you're wondering and wanting to know what happens, you definitely want to keep watching this video. There comes a point in time in the conversations, if you're talking to a peer or if you're talking to another leader, depending on the level that you both are at, there's a point in time where the conversation starts off very, very, very very professional initially. So the conversation's up here. And then somebody makes a comment that brings it down just a little bit. Now, what could that comment be? It could be a lot of things. I have had different conversations like that. And so you have to be very mindful. And this is my insight for you. You have to be very, very mindful of when this change in conversation happens and who does it first. If you are subscribed to my channel or watching my content or watch any of my videos, I do not want you to be the person to bring that conversation down. I want you to be the person to keep that conversation very elevated, very professional, and be that exceptional communicator that I know you want to be. I say on my channel all the time, people become great by how they communicate. And my role here on this earth with my YouTube channel, with my business, and etc., is to unlock the greatness within you. And I do that by sharing with you these insights. So specifically, what happens? There is typically, when you're talking to a peer and you're talking to another leader, there may be a time in your conversation where one person says something that is not entirely professional. It could be something as subtle as a gesture. It could be something as subtle as a comment. It could be something as subtle as a laugh or something that's not inappropriate or something else. But what you'll need to do is to not go for that comment. So specifically, I would say, do not take the bait, okay? Do not take the bait when your conversation is very professional and it drops down to being unprofessional. Why is this important? Because what happens as peers, sometimes we start to become very lax in our communication with each other. So we may say things to each other that we normally would not say to other leaders or maybe our direct reports. There may be some topics we would not talk about, but because I'm talking to another leader, it's okay. I'm going to talk to them about this and etc. But sometimes there's a point in a conversation where there is something that is said that takes this elevated conversation down and makes it not as professional as it needs to be. This is why making a great, as I mentioned, not a great first impression is so important. Because if you can maintain that very elevated, very professional conversation with someone else, not only is it going to showcase your executive presence as a woman in leadership or as a leader, but it also showcases how you are able to control a conversation. Now, let me give you an example. And I know this is going to sound a bit silly, and it is silly, but this happened to me many years ago. Many years ago, I was having a conversation with another leader. And the leader was similar in my level. We were at a higher level in terms of senior leadership. And she mentioned to me that she had a situation happen, and she said, "Oh, girl, I don't want to deal with that. That's just the most silliest thing ever." And so she started talking to me in a lot of slang. And if I wanted to establish rapport with her, I could go there and I could go down and talk slang with her also. However, I didn't want to be perceived as that person that just talks slang or talks about things that are maybe not appropriate, or I don't communicate in a very articulate way. So what did I do? I said, instead of me saying, "Oh, girl, yes, I know that's silly. I know, I understand." I may have felt that. I felt that it was silly what she was telling me in terms of what happened, but I responded in a very professional way. Instead of me saying what she said, I reflected back and I mentioned to her, "I really appreciate you mentioning that. I completely understand why that may have been a bit challenging." Now, you may say, "Well, what if I'm just trying to talk rapport? Why can't I just say what I want to say that's on my mind?" Well, you can. You can absolutely say what's on your mind. However, as I mentioned, we are making a great first impression, not a good first impression. A good first impression is for people that are average. A great first impression is why you're watching this channel. And if you have that come up in a conversation, and this person is somebody I did not know, I knew she was at a higher, we were both peers in terms of our senior leadership titles, but still, you want to make that great first impression and still be able to communicate at a higher level than your peers. This is the reason why, leaders, you will stand out from everybody else. Now, I know this may be challenging for some of you to hear, that you may think, "Well, you're telling me that I can't be myself." You can be yourself. You want to be your authentic self, but you want to make sure your authentic self is reflecting the person that you want to be perceived as. And if you want to be perceived as the leader, as the executive, the individual that is getting things done and can communicate at a higher level than your peers, can articulate your value, articulate your worth, then you want to make sure that you are communicating that way consistently, especially leaders, if you are having that very first impression with someone. Now in the chat, there is a name here. It's Studio the Manwako. I am sorry, friend, if I know I probably did not pronounce your name correctly, but I appreciate you being here. I'm sorry I did not probably pronounce it correctly. It is in another language. I believe I know what the language is, but I don't want to say it and misspeak. But I appreciate you being here today. I don't know specifically what you're saying, but thank you and welcome to the channel. So I've talked to you about how you can learn a bit more about your first impression. These are strategies, these are insights, I would say, that you must know. You must know as a woman leader. Number one insight, and there's many insights I can share with you all on making a first impression. As I mentioned, definitely check out the live video I did this morning during my drive where I talked about techniques, specifically what you do to master that first impression. But today, the insights that are really important that you must know are, one, your first impression really does matter. It truly does. It sets the tone for what everybody else and how they're going to interact with you. Number two, there is a gap in terms of leadership for women in leadership specifically. You may be the first woman that they have ever seen in a role as a leader, as a senior leader, as a CEO, as a VP, as a doctor, as a lawyer. You may be the first woman this person they've ever seen. So you want to make sure you have a great, as I mentioned, great first impression because you're representing not only yourself, but you're representing other women that are coming after you as leaders. And finally, try to avoid the peer-to-peer laxness that happens as leaders. Do not take the bait. When someone starts to communicate in a way that's not as professional as it needs to be, in a conversation, in a first impression, even though it's a peer, and you may want to just go in and be silly with them, keep in mind, you can be the person that elevates the conversation or keeps the conversation elevated. And I want to know from you, what insight was your favorite in this video? Was it insight number one, number two, or number three? Which one was your favorite insight that you learned today? And do you have other insights to share? Let me know in the comments below. If there's another insight that you found that has been helpful for you as you are having great, as I mentioned, great first impressions. Good first impressions are for average individuals. And if you're watching this channel, you are above average. I know that. So we're working on those great first impressions in terms of how you communicate as leaders. Let me know if there's any topics you all want to talk about. I do want to be able to provide you with the support. I'm really here to help you all, whether you are a woman in leadership in terms of my direct audience that I work with in my one-on-one clients, in my executive coaching practice, or if you're a man in leadership and you are subscribed to my channel, let me know what topics you want to learn more about. I do have one topic that was mentioned previously by the forensic accountant, so I'm going to actually be talking about that here very, very soon. It's a very good topic about communicating and being in social media and not saying everything you want to say if you're on social media. So let me know. I want to support you all on your journey and help you really elevate communication skills. If you're new to me and this is the first time that you've ever heard or watched a video of mine, I focus in on the more challenging topics. I am the person that deals with the hard conversations. And I've been able to do those. So if you're in a complex situation and maybe you want to talk about it as a woman in leadership, then look in the description below. Feel free to sign up for a strategy session. It's just a brief call where we talk about maybe what you're going through and how we can help you communicate it in a very articulate way, or maybe you're having a difficult conversation. Whatever the case may be, I'm here to support you on your leadership journey. I do want to mention a couple of things just very briefly as it relates to the channel as a whole. There are a few things that are happening. Many of you know that I have been live streaming quite a bit here over the past, wow, it's been almost gracious, I think we're getting to the point where we're about at 9 months. And I've live streamed so much here on YouTube that YouTube recognized me live streaming. And I'm a member, or I was invited to be a member of YouTube's live streamer research panel. And so I'll be on that project or task for the next year. And I just want to say I appreciate you all for being a part of my live streaming journey. And a lot of this, in terms of the dialogue, the interactions that YouTube actually recognize, it has to do with you. It has to do with you being present and watching my videos. So I appreciate you all so much just for being here and being a part of my audience, being a part of my journey. There's a lot of things that are going to be happening on my channel here very soon, and I'm really excited, and I want to just be able to support you all, whether you are my direct target audience in terms of my one-on-one clients, as women in leadership, but as men in leadership too, because I know if you're watching these videos, you want to communicate at a higher level than your peers. And as I mentioned earlier, the information I'm sharing with you about leadership, about communication, truly transcends gender, and I want to make sure that I am supporting you the best way that I can. So you're going to start seeing some different videos on my channel. There's a lot that's going to be happening in quarter four. Quarter four of this year, I anticipate to be very, very busy. Not busy in the sense of just random videos, but very, very busy in terms of the channel. So you're going to see a lot of things happening. I just encourage you all to give me feedback. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, so I can structure my content in different ways. There's several topic areas that I'm going to be focusing in on, specifically as it relates to communication, women in leadership, and some strategies to help you be that person that stands out from everybody else. But you're going to see a lot more lives. So I started doing lives in the morning on my commute. I've started, of course, been doing lives in the evening. I do go live Tuesday through Friday, every week, unless something happens and I'm not able to make it. But you'll see a bit more lives. So you're going to see a bit more lives on my channel. You will probably see a bit more shorts on my channel. And there's a couple platforms I'm working with right now to work on shorts. So you're going to see a bit more shorts. In addition to that, I'm going to restart my pre-recorded videos. Now, many of you may have interacted with me being live here on YouTube, and this is still going to be a major part of my channel is going lives, because I know that you all appreciate the engagement. I have a tremendous amount of fun with you all and really enjoy every moment that I have live with you all. But you're going to see a lot. So you're going to see morning lives. You're going to see some my still evening lives. You're probably going to see a lot more shorts coming up, and you're going to start seeing some more recorded videos coming up. So just know that if you're seeing a lot of movement on my YouTube channel, there is a reason for this movement. There's a lot of growth that's happening for me professionally, especially as it relates to my business. And there's a couple things that I'm trying to make sure I accomplish before the end of this year. And God willing, that things will go in the direction that I like for them to be, so that I can be more present with you all. I can really give you as much value as I can. There's so much I want to share with you all to help you communicate at that higher level. I want you to learn from over 20 years of experience as a public speaker, and not only that, as a C-suite, as a director. I've interacted with different congressional leaders on the national and on the state level here in the United States, and I've been in those very friendly and contentious conversations, and I've been on the news, so I have so much to share, and I want to share this with you because I didn't have access to all this information when I was developing professionally, and I want to make sure that I am supporting you all and giving you as much as I can here live on YouTube as free resources. Of course, there's always a point where you have to invest in yourself and you have to get support. This is what you reach out to me for as an executive coach in terms of a strategy session. But just know there's going to be a lot of movement that's happening on my channel. Just bear with me. You're just going to see a lot. I don't want you all to get overwhelmed with it. It's going to be quite a bit. I plan on launching a podcast in quarter four. This podcast is going to be very interesting. I want you all to let me know what your thoughts are. If you're still watching the video, then I know you are a subscriber more than likely of my channel. So I definitely want to get your feedback. But the podcast I'm going to be launching here is going to be something that I haven't seen just yet in the podcast arena in terms of what it is. And this is going to be a very special type of podcast that not only encompasses my target audience of women in leadership, but also men in leadership as well. And this podcast, I'm going to make sure that you are continually in a position where you are learning very tactical strategies in terms of how you can communicate in those very hard moments. I found that many people go into leadership roles as managers and they just are basically brought into these roles to say, wow, you've been doing a great job. We're going to promote you as a manager and here you go. And there's not a lot of guidance training for them to understand, well, I'm a manager, but what does that mean? And more importantly, specifically for me and my type of audience and what I talk about, how do you manage those hard conversations? It can be very, 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 very difficult to do if you're not trained how to do it. And this isn't only individuals that are just starting out on their manager journey. No, this happens to people that are seasoned C-suites, like myself. There's individuals that have been senior VPs and etc. I have seen leaders at the highest level struggle with difficult conversations. I have. So just because you may be at the beginning, the middle, or the end of your leadership journey, that doesn't mean you're at a place where everything is fine. But anyways, the podcast specifically that I'm going to be talking about is going to just really give you some behind the scenes look in terms of how you can learn how to communicate in those very hard, very challenging situations from different people. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But all of that's going to be happening in quarter 4. So quarter 4 is going to be busy. If you're following me on any other platform, such as LinkedIn at Dr. Jacinta Lamentai, or at Excite Excellence on LinkedIn, or Instagram at Excite Excellence, or here on YouTube, you just may see a few more things happening. So let me know what your thoughts are. If you like the direction the channel is going into, because it's going to be a lot more content out there, friends, that I plan on doing to help you all. So I'm looking forward to supporting you. Let me know what questions you have. I'm here to support you and help you any way that I can. No question is too hard, especially if it's a professional question. Then let me know. I can provide you with some insight in terms of how you can turn your situation around. So I hope you all have an amazing day, and I will see you all tomorrow. And tomorrow we may talk a bit more about first impressions. I'll let you know tomorrow, depending on what happens. But look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I appreciate your support. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Definitely share it with a colleague or a friend of yours that's maybe trying to go to that next level in terms of how they communicate. Maybe they're trying to go into public speaking. Maybe they're trying to just put themselves in a better position to communicate and articulate their value. Then let them know. Feel free to share my information. I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Bye for now.